think this is the fourth podcast we've done. It's been amazing. It's crazy that's been the fourth one done. So I mean, what we've done in this month, and maybe actually it's only been three. I can't remember. You guys would have to tell me. But remember, this is the Miami Dolphins podcast that posts every Wednesday. We give you all the Dolphins news you need to know about, and we also go through rumors of OTAs and all the other stuff. Basically, all the news you need to know about. So let's get into this. This first news story is concerning Orlando Franklin, who I think a ton of Dolphins fans are just all up in arms about because of the guard situation. I think if the Dolphins aren't concerned about it, which I think is a lie, because if you look at earlier reports of the Dolphins guard, the interior of the offensive line, I think there were reports that they didn't view Jermon Bushrod as a starter there anymore. So I hope that they're telling the truth. I know we added a ton more depth on the offensive line, I know that for a fact. I know that we don't have to worry about that this upcoming season, which is it's such a nice thing because we've been dealing with that for a long time. So to have that fixed is awesome. So I think they fixed that, but this is a story concerning Orlando Franklin. You guys can read about this on NFL.com. It says the title of the article is "The Dolphins Not Interested in Orlando Franklin." The article was by Sam Robinson, in case you guys are wondering. So obviously Orlando Franklin, his agent has been very vocal about the connection between him and the Dolphins for some reason. And on a radio show that Barry Jackson does of the Miami Herald, he said that the Dolphins doesn't look like it's going to happen. I reported on this earlier that he said they had some interest in him, but no, the deal wasn't imminent. But I think the Dolphins have straight up said, yeah, we're good with who we have, is what this article basically says. So it's interesting. Obviously, Orlando Franklin, when he's healthy, the NFL today is what have you done for me lately, which is a shame because there's so many factors that go into why a player is not as good as he used to be. And a lot of people just point to, well, he's old. That's not necessarily true. When you look at somebody like a James Harrison, who's 40 years old and plays at a all-pro level, and you look to see what he does to keep himself ready for game day, and you see what the Steelers do, and how they selectively use him, and snap counts aren't as much. He's used on critical downs, like stuff like that. Like, players can play a very, very long time. It's dependent on your coaching staff and how smart they are. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think Orlando Franklin, whoever picks him up, is going to be pleasantly surprised if he can stay healthy with Orlando Franklin. I think he can give you some really, really good minutes. This reminds me of Evan Mathis this past season, right? Evan Mathis' his entire career has been doubted. I can't remember who drafted. Pretty sure, obviously he was a Dolphin at one point. He was a Panther at one point. The man's been all around the NFL. But he's he's been one of the best offensive linemen. I mean, he put together some seasons there that he was playing at an all-pro level, and nobody gave him credit. So I think he's similar to Orlando Franklin in that kind of, for some reason, he just keeps bouncing around, and he gives everybody he's ever played with, when he's healthy, he gives them great minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see where he lands. Obviously, it's a shame he's not going to be a Dolphin, and I know a lot of people are screaming about that. They want it to happen, but it's just not going to happen. So, yeah, if you have, I think the one that really has upsetted me of the last, I think, was it 3 years ago or 4 years ago, when Lyle Collins was coming out of the draft out of LSU. Obviously, he was a super talented kid, and obviously he had those murder charges against him, and that's why he went undrafted. And obviously it ended up being total bogus, and obviously then he ends up getting picked up by the Dallas Cowboys, and obviously Jarvis Landry and Mike Pouncey actually tried to recruit him, but our regime at the time was just too stupid to recognize the fact how talented that kid was, and it's a shame that we didn't. If I had to pick any turning point, obviously the Richie Incognito situation. If we could have just made some moves here and there, we wouldn't have these problems right now. But you guys can take Joe Philbin for that. So, yeah, I think this is an interesting news story. Also, you guys can read it. I think this is another Barry Jackson related thing you guys can look at, and it's concerning Leonte Carroo. And this is really interesting. Obviously, Leonte Carroo, I guess, has been disappointing to the coaching staff. Obviously we traded some picks away to go up and pick him. He's a super talented guy. And there's a question: will he actually even make the roster this upcoming season? I think the reason that question is raised. The reason the question is raised is because of Isaiah Ford, obviously Rashawn Scott, he's been playing out of his mind so far this offseason. I think those really is like, well, dang, man. I mean, we got Isaiah Ford, who is an absolute steal. We have Rashawn Scott, who's played really well for the last 2 seasons right now. Is he going to finally break the starting rotation? So Leonte Carroo has got some serious competition to beat out this season. It's going to be interesting to see if he can rise to the occasion. Hopefully that helps his development, because there's nothing like competition to make you better. And I think obviously the jump from year 1 for an NFL player to year 2 is always the biggest jump. So that's a popular opinion. I always say that it's either for me it's either 3 or 4 years. Then you really get to see how great the player is going to be. So for Leonte, hopefully he makes that jump this upcoming season. We see a little bit more of him on the field. I mean, when you look at Leonte Carroo, he's a really talented player. He's basically Jarvis Landry, with a little bit more speed, I would say. He's just a truck. When he gets the ball in the open field, he's so hard to bring down, and he is a weapon. He's a red zone threat. He had 10 touchdowns 2 seasons in a row. One season he played like 8. He didn't even play I think he played like half a year. Still put up like 9 touchdowns. So Leonte Carroo knows how to put the ball in the paint, and he could be a very, very valuable weapon for the Dolphins, in the red zone. So yeah, there's a lot to like about that, to like about Leonte Carroo. So I can't wait to see that. And then Darrelle Revis. I know I've been checking Darrelle Revis, see what he's doing. Obviously, he had his connection for the Cowboys for a while. I think they were in talks for a while now. And obviously, those talks were stopped because the Cowboys are just not interested in Darrelle Revis. So it's amazing to me. I would say Darrelle Revis probably won't be signed until training camp. And it's going to be interesting to see who picks him up, because he's a great player still. I think he could still give a team valuable minutes. Again, like alluding to what I said earlier about James Harrison, Darrelle Revis still has all the talent in the world to play football. And he might not still be that 25-year-old, one of the greatest corners to ever live, but he's still a really good football player. He's better than the average corner. He's definitely above average, I can tell you that. And not a lot of teams can say they have a lot of above average corners, especially to have depth. So I think it would be foolish for the Dolphins not to at least seriously consider him. All right, so this next news story is concerning Jarvis Landry's contract, which is at this point really getting annoying if you're a Dolphins fan. I remember before Kenny Stills got the big deal, and there was all those rumors where he was going to go to Philly, he was going to go to he was going to go to Cali, where he was born, play for San Diego, somewhere like that. A lot of Dolphins fans did not care. I mean, it was pretty funny. Like, they really didn't care. A lot of people hate Kenny Stills. A lot of Dolphins fans hate him, which is really, I mean, he's a great player. I think Kenny Stills adds an element. I've discussed this so many times, but Kenny Stills he stretches the field. He allows J.J. to get, and Julius Thomas is also going to help in this department, really open up the middle of the field, and that really allows the running game to be a whole lot easier on your running back. There's not extra people in the box. Instead of you have one safety down in the box, you have 2 deep safeties, which means it's way easier to run, to put it in layman's terms. So Kenny Stills adds a lot of fear into the defense, and I think Tannehill and his chemistry is very, very underrated. I think if you look at last season, that touchdown against the Chargers the touchdown against the Chargers and the Cardinals, that's all chemistry. Though both of those balls were perfectly placed, you could tell that those two have been practicing a lot because of those touchdowns. That's all chemistry. And because those were perfectly timed, everything about that. So I think the Tannehill to Kenny Stills connection is really, really good. And I'm glad that we kept that nucleus together. But back to the Jarvis Landry situation, the point when I brought Kenny Stills up is a lot of people were concerned about how we're going to pay Jarvis. And Rashad Jones, the story is Rashad, I don't mean to say Rashad, everybody crap and calm down. Everybody, hey, before you start freaking out, I'm sorry, ever since the man was drafted out of Georgia, I've said Rashad, okay? And that was a long, long time ago. I apologize. But Rashad Jones, he said, I think earlier today, or I think it was yesterday, there was a whole article based off of it, that Jarvis Landry just needs to continue to play well, and then he'll get rewarded. And I think that's an interesting. I mean, obviously, he probably knows nothing about the contract talks between Miami and obviously Juice or Mike Tannenbaum and Jarvis Landry. He probably knows nothing about that. But it is a little telling. Like, you're telling me that he needs to keep playing. He needs to prove it to get that contract. No. Jarvis Landry has already proved it. This man is he is the best at his position. It's not even close. Look at the stats. Pro Football Focus calculated how many. Obviously, you can go look at the list. It's amazing. Who had the most yards out of the slot? Jarvis Landry blew everybody out of the water. It's not even close. The man is probably the best, second to only his best friend, Odell Beckham, who's basically his crap and, older brother. I don't know their age. I think they're the same age, but he's probably the only other receiver that's better than him at running after the catch. So Jarvis Landry brings so much to the table. He's one of the best at his position, and you're going to sit here and tell me it's stupid that Rashad Jones, I'm sorry, don't freak out. Rashard. I'm going to say Rashard. I don't care. Rashard Jones said, it's weird that he said that. It's like, no, man. He has earned it. He has already earned it. Jarvis for the last 2 seasons could have had 900 yards, right? Which obviously had over 1,000 these past 2 seasons. He's tied with Odell Beckham for the most receptions since he got into the league, which is insane. That's another insane stat for you. But it's like, I totally lost my train of thought. What I was going to say. Okay, so the thing that Jarvis brings to the table that is so amazing as a fan to watch is, name me, I think the last time, even Jason Taylor, Zach Thomas, they're very passionate about the game of football, right? Ever since they retired, name me somebody on the Dolphins roster who just leaves it all out there that will do anything to win a football game. Tannehill, I think, is underrated in that way, but he doesn't show emotion. That's why the Dolphins fans connect to him so much, is because he shows his emotion like a fan does. And same thing with Odell Beckham. A lot of people say, oh, he acts like a child. No, he just wants to win. That's all that is. It's funny because when you see Kobe Bryant do something like that, have a fit or something like that, it's he's a killer. Jarvis Landry is the same way. He just has that dog in him. So not only does Jarvis Landry deserve the contract from a play standpoint, which he deserves a max deal alone, he deserves it from what he brings to the culture of the Dolphins, what he has done to turn around this franchise, because he is a huge part of it. I know a lot of people bring up Adam Gase, but Juice is a huge part of turning it around. Juice is a huge part of keeping the fan base involved. Juice is a huge part of a lot of different things and a lot of different areas. So to sit here and say, hey, you got to keep proving it, trust me, you're going to get rewarded. No. He has already done that. More than done that. Ever since the man was a rookie and then he finally cracked the starting lineup, Jarvis, ever since that Buffalo Thursday night football game, I've been like this. When we played against the Packers, barely lost against the Packers, I'm like this. I think we all knew as Dolphins fans, this kid is special, and he's been special ever since he got into the league. So again, just to say he needs to keep doing it, no, he needs to get paid. That's what he needs to do. So that's what I just thought I had to rant about that for a second, because it is an absolute ridiculous. That's like saying, like Tom Brady. A funny thing about the NFL is, like, Brock Osweiler is getting paid tons and tons of cash to be one of the worst players in the league. And you see over here, all Juice over here, he needs to get paid before he leaves. The last thing we need to do is have some bad... If Jarvis Landry left, I don't know what I would do, guys. I really don't know what I would do. I mean, that is the heart and soul of the Dolphins. And that would really hurt any kind of chances of winning a championship. He is a huge part of the turnaround that the Dolphins have had. Huge part of it. And he needs to get his money. For sure. Alright, so let's move on. I could talk about that for a long time. I'm very passionate about that because, again, I mean, come on, guys. It's Jarvis Landry. The man doesn't miss games. He's durable. Do you know how many times that Jarvis, just to bring this up, has played through pain? The man is did you see when he took that hit by Dante Hightower and then still ran in the end zone? You think your shoulder is going to be okay after that? No. He's dealt with shoulder injuries, still plays. He's just a great player. He sacrifices for the team. All right, so let's get into some topics that I've seen on Bleacher Report that I find you guys can go on Bleacher Report and find these articles if you want to read them yourself. So, but we're going to go through the topics, and I'm going to give you my. Before we get into that, I think we need to talk about a couple more things. I got ahead of myself. I have some notes written down that we need to go through. I think some of the things that we should go through on this episode of the podcast is things that the Dolphins really need to improve on and things that we haven't really addressed. And looking at the 2016 NFL season, obviously there are glaring issues. Obviously, third down conversion rate is was second to last in the NFL. Only the worst was the Rams, which is just, we cannot be in the same breath as them. Obviously, that stat is jaded, because even though when we went on the 6-game win streak, it was still pretty bad. But that's something that obviously glares out, and you see like, we need to stay on the football field more. We need to take more snap, all that yada 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 yada. You guys understand what I'm talking about. So that's another one. I think first quarter slow starts is another one that really pops off the tape, or pops off even statistically. We cannot be that bad in the first quarter if we're gonna, because we can't get down that much against a really good football team, because it's gonna be really hard to come back from that. So those are some of the things the Dolphins really need to work on. And another thing I really want to talk about that we've seen in OTA so far, and you guys can go on your local Bleacher Report and read about this. You can get that if you follow Omar Kelly or James Walker or Chris Perkins on Twitter. You've been probably informed about this kind of stuff. But obviously the Dolphins are working on the fade route and the red zone. If you guys don't know what that means, it's that if you know the Dez Bryant, Tony Romo, just look up that. That if you're very like the back shoulder fade, you know what I'm talking about. If you're an NFL fan, I'm not gonna sit here and explain that to you. I'm not. You guys aren't children. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so they know. So that's something that Tannehill has really needed to work on. Throughout his career, he needs to really improve on that. And apparently he's throwing it with precision. When Jordan Cameron, before he got hurt, I think that was gonna be a very, very big part of our offense. If you guys go back and look at the preseason game, I think it was against the Cowboys. We practiced that a lot. And obviously Jordan Cameron, I think, dropped one of them. But Tannehill has been working on that fade route for a very, very long time. So hopefully we see more of that this upcoming season, because that's going to really improve our red zone numbers. Again, we could use a Rashawn Scott that way, Leonte Carroo in that way, Isaiah Ford in that way. We have a lot of guys who can go up and get a football, which is, I think, a theme with our Dolphins receivers that we've added lately. All of them, if you look at their tape in college, are really good high point guys. Like Devontae Parker, really good high point guy. Leonte Carroo, really good high point guy. Isaiah Ford, really, really, really good high point guy. So I think that's a little bit of a theme there, trying to improve in the red zone. Obviously, the addition of Julius Thomas is going to help us in that department, because all he does is put the ball in the paint. But I think that's a very interesting thing that I think is a little theme that's been going on for the last few years. All right, so let's see here. See if we can't find anything else to talk about. See, again, they're working on the red zone. Okay, so back to we're going to move on from that. That's all I really wanted to discuss. I think red zone's a very important thing that we need to work on. Consistency is another one with the Dolphins that I think any young team, doesn't have to be a Dolphins team. The Seahawks, before they really, really got good, I think it was the year before they got Russell Wilson, they went 7-9. That team still had all the cast of characters that you would, other than Bobby Wagner, and obviously Russell Wilson had really, and Bruce Irvin, that really kind of flipped the switch for them. Michael Bennett, before they got there, which those are all three, all of those guys are, awesome for what they do. Now, obviously, it's going to change your record, but, they were very inconsistent. So it takes a while. Obviously, we got a taste of winning, which is really going to help our team. I think, all that. So consistency is another thing that they need to work on. Hopefully, we see improvements on. So moving on from that, let's talk about some things that have been going around in the Dolphins world. And like I said, you guys can go read about these topics on Bleacher Report. The first topic here that I really want to talk about is why Jay is a dark horse MVP. I don't know if Jay is going to be an MVP candidate, but I think, JJ really, you guys can go read about this, by the way, again, just to remind you. Sorry, I had to say that 15,000 times. I know that was probably annoying. But, I think JJ is one of the best running backs in the AFC, so I think he's going to really surprise a lot of people. And I can't wait. Our offense is so talented I don't know what else to say other than it's really exciting, and I can't wait. So do I think JJ is going to be an MVP candidate? I don't know. I think if I had to pick a Dolphin that's going to be an MVP candidate on our roster, And before I say this, everybody calm down. I know everybody accuses me of crapping, hugging Tannehill's balls all the time. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Licking the balls of Tannehill is what I always get. Tree hugging Tannehill and all this other stuff. I understand that. I talk about Tannehill in a positive light more than I guess usually people do. But I think he would probably be that dark horse MVP candidate on the team. And I really do believe that. I think he's got a lot to prove this upcoming season. It's going to be interesting to see. Because, again, like I said, he has improved in a lot of areas of his game. So I think Tannehill would be a dark horse MVP candidate for me. If I had to choose one, it would be Tannehill. Let's see here. See if there's any other good. Yeah, TJ Lang said Dominican Sue is a nut job. Yeah, he's a pretty crazy person. I mean, if you try blocking that, that's all I have to say about that. Obviously, we talked about Rashard Jones and Jarvis Landry. I thought that was in a little kind of stupid. This is an interesting topic. Dolphins hoping second-rounders Jordan Phillips and Xavier Howard emerge. So far in OTAs, from what I've been hearing, Xavier Howard and obviously Tony Lippett, he got a pick 6 in the first week of OTAs. They both have been playing very, very well. Same thing with Devontae Parker. He's looked really good. A lot of people are really buzzing about DP, which is really good. Obviously, Jarvis Landry's looked really good. Devontae Parker, I think, is the biggest takeaway so far, but it's interesting. Jordan Phillips, obviously, you can't really judge offensive lineman and defensive lineman until, obviously, when training camp comes around, then you can really do it. Yeah. Jordan Phillips not really fair to judge so far, but from skill positions is what you can really judge. Obviously, TJ McDonald's another one that a lot of people have been impressed with in OTA so far, but it's nice to hear that Xavier's playing really well, Tony Lippett's been playing really well, and obviously Devontae Parker, and obviously Juice. The Juice is a god, so we already knew that. And this is which rookies are turning heads, and I have to click this because I totally forgot who they said the Dolphins, so we can talk about this. Again, you guys ready for this? You guys ready for this? Like I haven't already mentioned already. You guys can go check these articles out on Bleacher Report. So let's see here. See for the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt, good for the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt, good for you. Spencer Ware. Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp. I'm so upset that Cooper Kupp was a Ram. Ryan Switzer and Cooper Kupp, man. I really, really wanted them to be Dolphins. I love both of those guys. They're really good. And it's a dang shame. I remember when Ryan Switzer got drafted. Like this was 15 years ago, but yeah, I remember it. It was like, I remember old days. Yeah, but anyway, I remember when it happened. I was so mad. I was so very, very mad about it. Ryan Switzer, not only does he a special teams threat, but the man is he just gets open, man. And he would have been like a little he was like Wes Welker clone, maybe a little bit more athletic, and he would have been he would have helped us on third down big time, in that department. Let's see here. Let's see if we can't find. Obviously, Leonard Fournette making a lot of noise. Who crapping cares? It's the Jaguars. Oh, looky here. Cowboys wide receiver Ryan Switzer. He's been making a lot of noise. Oh, thanks, everybody. Raiders Elijah Wood running back. That's interesting. They obviously have DeAndre Washington, Marshawn Lynch, and Richard. God, I can't remember the other guy's name. And James Olawale back there. And then for the Redskins over here, not that anybody cares, can never say him, is Pirine from Oklahoma. Watched a lot of his tape coming into this draft. That kid is very, very good. Obviously, his running mate, I'm really seriously spacing out on his name right now. The kid who hit the girl, I can't remember his name right now. I know I watched a lot of tape on both of those guys, but he reminds me of David Johnson, and then Pirine reminds me a lot of Maurice Jones-Drew. So those two are going to be pretty dang good pros. Obviously Julius Thomas has been really, really impressive this OTA so far. Obviously, if you watch interviews with the teams and OTAs, just rave reviews. So that's good news. Everything is really positive right now in OTAs, which is really nice. Obviously, training camp is when we really, really know, and preseason's always really fun to watch if you're a hardcore fan. So yeah. Let's see if there's any other topics here before we get to the fan Q&A. Wink, 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 wink. If you guys don't know, we obviously answer fan questions in this podcast. If you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel so you can get your fan questions in. Alright, so this is every team's fatal flaw. We're not going to read all of these. Who cares about the Baltimore Ravens? I hate the Ravens more than anything. The Bills. Let's see what the Bills' fatal flaw is. AFC East news. Offense lacks playmakers at wide receiver. Yeah, I would agree with that. Not really. Sammy Watkins is a really good player. Let's see. Carolina Panthers. Protecting Cam Newton's a problem. Yeah, they have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. All right, let's get to the Dolphins. What's Bleacher Report saying? What's our fatal flaw for the Dolphins? This is probably boring. I apologize, but this is a podcast. You just listen. Just sit down and listen to it. God dang it. This ain't Joe Rogan. This isn't crapping elite, one of the best podcasts in the world. Hopefully we get there one day. Probably not ever in a million years. I can't find the Dolphins. We might have to move straight on to the Fan Q&A, because I'm not going to sit here and just flip through this. Jared Goff. Goofball, as my brother calls him. Jared Goofball. Miami Dolphins' poor run defense. That's the fatal flaw. That's going to be fixed this upcoming season. The run defense, if you really want to talk about, let's talk about the run defense. It's the only thing anybody talks about when they talk about the Dolphins. Obviously, it was terrible. I think we allowed 4.7 yards a rush, which is, whoo, that's disgusting. Obviously, it was statistically the worst Dolphins defense. And a lot of people are like, people who don't know what they're talking about, when they talk about that, it is hilarious to hear. Like, if you guys want to watch something funny, watch somebody who doesn't watch Dolphins football talk about the Dolphins. It's hilarious. Like, I heard this one guy, and I can't remember what video it was. He was like, the Dolphins' defense secondary was really poor and whatever. You got to factor in everything else, too. Statistics aren't everything. There's a reason statistics are statistics, because players play, right? So, if you look at the Dolphins' 2016 season, which a lot of smart people bring up, obviously we were extremely injured throughout the season. One of the most injured football teams of the last 3 years we've been. Last season was really bad, and it's a miracle that we even made the playoffs with that football team. Okay? We had people out here that you don't even want to see anymore. Okay? So, why don't you get the facts straight before you start talking? So that's why the Dolphins' defense of stats were really jaded. And, we still were the best team in third down defense, which is pretty dang impressive. So are you guys ready for the Fan Q&A? I feel like you guys are ready for the Fan Q&A. So we're going to move on to the Fan Q&A. If there's any hopefully, guys, there's some more OTA questions. I think we already went through all the OTA news. Obviously, so I'm not going to run through that again, even though I repeat myself in every video like 1,000 times. You guys have no idea how frustrating that is, editing myself. It's pretty dang ridiculous. So let's get into some of the fan questions here. We got a lot of them. I think let's look at this before we go any further. I appreciate all the love on the Fan Q&A. You guys don't understand how long the Fan Q&A takes to edit. It takes a very long time. So I appreciate all the love there. This question comes from Quentin. It's not a question. He says, Skaggs, I'm going to be at the opener against Tampa Bay. Hope to see you there. From a huge Dolphins fan to another, I'm not going to be there. So I apologize. Even if I was there, I wouldn't tell you. Okay, so back off. Okay? I'm trying to enjoy the Dolphins game. I ain't trying to mingle. Alright? Let's see here. I'm just joking around. If I did see you there, I would, obviously, if any fan came up to me, or was not a fan who just watches my channel and said, hey man, what's up, what's good, I would cry. I would cry. You would have to hug me, because I would be delusional. Alright, let's get to this Fan Q&A. That was that was not a question. That was something, somebody's telling me that. How will our offensive line do this year? From Mikhail Hansen. That comes from Mikhail Hansen. How will our offensive line do this year? It's a great question. Obviously, another OTA tidbit that I forgot to mention, Ted Larson has practiced at center, guard, and center. Obviously, both guard spots and center. That's all dependent on a lot of things. Let's just say Isaac Asiata or Ted Larson is sufficient. They don't have to be above average. They just have to be sufficient, right? Pro tip, if you're ever recording a video or doing any kind of content, do not eat before you do it. Especially me. I have like this chronic burping issue that I can't. I'm sorry. I apologize. You guys have to hear that in your ear. I apologize. Sounds disgusting. Trust me. I know. Let's see here. So how will our offensive line do? It's dependent. It's interesting. Obviously, we can't. Isaac Asiata is the saving grace to this offensive line. We can't see anything. We can't hear from him, or any reviews from him. Obviously, we can't be critical of him until training camp, because you can't touch each other if you're the defensive line and the offensive line, which sounds really weird. I know, but I had to say it. We can't touch each other until training camp, basically, which sounds really weird. Anyway, so we can't judge Isaac Asiata until training camp, because he can't pass protect legitimately until training camp, and even then it's going to be very limited, so we can't really judge him until preseason. So get your scouting hats on when preseason comes around. We can see Isaac Asiata, because I think he is really the saving grace, because again, you can have one bad guard, but you can't have two. So if we have obviously Jermon Bushrod, I think is going to be consistent, sufficient. I'm not really concerned about him. I'm concerned about Ted Larson, and so I think Isaac Asiata. Here comes another burp. Isaac Asiata, I think he's going to be the saving grace of this offensive line. But even if he's not, Ted Larson hopefully can be just sufficient. He's a hard worker, Ted Larson is. He's been practicing at multiple positions. And I have a feeling he's going to be used as depth. Hopefully, we'll see. Obviously, Adam Gase is the king of competition. If you outplay your competition, then you will start. So hopefully, we're going to see who starts there. And if Isaac Asiata overtakes that guard position. But to answer your question, obviously, I'm answering your question, but there's a lot that goes into that question. That question carries a lot of weight. Who knows? I think they're going to be above average, even if Ted Larson starts. But if Isaac Asiata is in, this offensive line can be a top 3 unit. I think they're a top 10 unit for sure, even without him in there, because of our tackles. We have some of the best combos in the league. So yeah, I think our offensive line is really good. So that to answer your question, yeah, I think they're going to perform pretty dang good, especially with the depth and all that other stuff that I've talked about. This question comes from James Parker. Now, James, listen to me. You clearly do not watch the podcast, and I understand that, but I'm pretty sure I've answered this question. And if I haven't, I apologize to you. But James, listen. If you've made it 30 minutes into the podcast, or if anybody has, and you're in the comment section below, just tell James that I have answered this question. He says, do you think TJ McDonald will stay with the Dolphins after the season, or will he leave in free agency? Listen, James. I think TJ McDonald will stay with the Dolphins if he has a good season, if he has a good enough season. I don't think he's not even a year rental, for God's sakes. I think he's here to stay if he plays well. So if he plays well, he's gonna get a contract. If he doesn't, he's gone. He has to play really well. I'm not talking about he plays good or okay. This man has to play really well to stay with the Dolphins. Mikhail Hansen, I answered this to the fan Q&A, why the Dolphins are such an underrated team, because they're not in the public eye enough. I think that's one of the biggest reason and the only reason, to be honest with you. This question comes from Van. He says, do you think we should sign Revis to play free safety? Yes, absolutely. I made a whole video about that. This comes from The Gamer. He says, do you think Xavier Howard will beat out Tony Lippett? I think I answered it. I don't know if I answered that question in the fan Q&A, but if I didn't, do I think Xavier will beat out Tony? Yes. The Gamer, he says, do you think we should try to trade for Orlando Scandrick? No, Orlando Scandrick he cannot stay healthy, and I'm not giving up anything for that guy. Which Dolphins positional group is the most important to success? I did answer this. No, I didn't. I think I edited that segment out. If I did answer this, I apologize. But he says, which Dolphins positional group is most important to success in 2017, excluding the quarterback? The lines, offensive and defensive line. They have to do better. This next question comes from Jay. He says, do you think the Miami Dolphins 10-6 season was legit, or is it sustainable? Yes, because of Adam Gase. This next Jay, will Devontae Parker, another question comes from Jay. He says, do you think Devontae Parker will have a breakout year? Absolutely. Everything that we've been hearing from OTAs just points to him having an outstanding season. Ray Gonzalez says, personally, I've already answered that question. Alec Jeffrey says, with the roster cut from 90 to 53 after the final preseason, what are your predictions for cuts at major positions? That's a long answer to that question. Here's what I'll say about that. Is there any surprise cuts? I know that's not your answer to your question. I don't think anything's gonna surprise anybody. Maybe Nate Allen gets cut, Jordan Lucas somehow. I don't know. Who knows? I couldn't answer that question legitimately. I think Storm Johnson, some of the players that nobody's talking about. Storm Johnson is a guy to keep your name on. Devon Smith, guy that could surprise a lot of people, make the roster. Damian Williams is going to have to play really well to make the roster, which I fully expect him to do. Rashawn Scott, obviously, he could surprise a ton of people. I made a whole video about that. You guys can go check that on my channel. A wink, wink, wink. So those are some of the guys I would look to keep. Obviously, Isaac Asiata is another one. Any other Chase Allen, special team players like that. I would really keep Brandon Doughty is another guy I would keep my eye on. I don't think he's going to be able to beat out Matt Moore, but for that second quarterback job. But he's another guy who's going to be fun to watch in preseason because of his resume at Western Kentucky. Ricky Ricardo. Oh, and Thomas Durante. I forgot to mention him. Thomas Durante is another guy you guys have to keep your eyes on. Obviously, 7th round pick out of UCLA. Mismatch nightmare, and he actually got a lot of snaps last season, surprisingly, because of injuries, obviously, to Jordan Cameron and all that other stuff. But I think I could be totally wrong about this. The touchdown to Dominic Jones against the Jets, if you guys go replay that play over and over again, and you'll see Thomas Durante is in there. We used him a lot in our red zone offense. He is wide open on that play, and that play really showcases his quickness and his route running ability. And that could not be the right play, but so there's some, just go look at red zone plays for the Dolphins, and I'm sure you'll find him in there somewhere. And you can see how smooth of a route runner he is. Just the only reason Thomas Durante hasn't got to play is if you're tight end in an Adam Gase offense, you have to block, which is something Thomas Durante cannot do. So that's why he hasn't got a lot of more playing time. This next question comes from Sean Smith. He says, so being Sean Smith, he says, so being with it, I meant that as a joke because Sean Smith was obviously a cornerback for the Dolphins. If this is you, Sean, yeah. He says, so being with the Dolphins, he says, so being that Stephen Ross was the only owner in the NFL to vote against the Raiders and move to Las Vegas, do you think that this might hurt his standing relationships with other owners, and how do you think that will affect the future come time to vote for other issues? It won't affect anything. That won't affect anything. That won't affect anything. I don't think it'll affect anything, at least. Let's see here. Opinion on Andre Branch. This comes from Zero Sub. I love Andre Branch. I think he's a late bloomer. I think losing as many games as they did, and that culture down there in Jacksonville really hurt his development. Him coming out of college, obviously in the 2012 NFL draft, this guy looked like he was going to be really something special. He has all the physical gifts. I think he was a better version of Bruce Irvin. So I think him being around this culture, being around this winning culture, winning football games last season is really going to help him this upcoming season. I think unofficially Andre Branch got 9 or 8 sacks. Officially he got 5, but a lot of his sacks were called back because of penalties. So Andre Branch had a really good season last season. So I think he's going to have a really good season this upcoming season. This next question comes from Zero Sub again. He says, no bias, what do you think about the cornerback group? I think it's young and hungry, and I think it's really good. I think it obviously got more turnovers than the Seahawks secondary, which is impressive because most of our starters were not playing in the secondary. Sean Jacobson says, what do you think the most hard-fought game will be this next year, and will we win? I think I answered that question for sure. Probably the Patriots game, I would say. Like I said in the fan Q&A, on the road against Gillette. Let's see here. Is there anything else we need to answer? How many games? I don't predict. In future reference for questions, do not ask me to predict the record. I will not. I have addressed this before, but I will not predict the record because I am a superstitious coward. So that's the reason. So I think that is it. I think that is really all we have to talk about. Really, no AFC East news. Maybe we should end the Should we end the video on that? I don't think there's anything really important to talk about with the AFC East. So I'm pretty sure that's it. That could be it. Let me make sure. Don't leave yet. Make sure I got everything. Let me look through my notes. This is a podcast. You guys wanted this. There is no editing, so there is awkward silence. Deal with it. Yes. That is it. If you made it this far, you're a hardcore fan, and I really appreciate you. If you made it 38 minutes in. Before we go, I just saw something really interesting. It says ranking every NFL receiving corps, so I'm now clicking that, and I'm now about to flip through it. So I really want to see what if it doesn't load, I'm not gonna flip through this. I'm not gonna make you guys wait. Okay, it loaded. So I want to see where the Dolphins ranked in this, because we're not getting any love. Last season we got really high on this list, which we deserve to, because we're one of the best receiver corps in the league. I cannot wait to see this team play, guys. You guys have no idea. This offense is going to be so awesome. It's going to be so fun to watch. The last in the league is the New York Jets. That's hilarious. All right, let's move. I'm flipping through this fast. Again, you guys can read this on the Bleacher Report, but I want to see where the Dolphins ranked really quickly. I'm not going to edit this out either because I think this is important. Number 2, in case you guys are wondering, is the Buccaneers. Let's see what number 1 is. The Patriots. Are you crapping kidding me? The Patriots? Yeah, because they have one guy that can really... I mean, Brandon Cooks, I guess, is a number 1 guy. I don't think... We're not really consider Edelman that. Let's see if I can't find the Dolphins. 5 is the Falcons. Are you high? You have to be high. You have to be high. They should be way higher. Higher. Haha, higher. Let's see here if we can't find... Okay, 8 is the Dolphins. That's not bad. We're in the top 10 again for the second consecutive year. It says receivers: Jarvis Landry, Kenny Stills, Vontae Parker, Leonte Greer, Jakeem Grant, Rashawn Scott, and Isaiah Ford. That is one heck of a list, my friends. Last season, Jarvis Landry was the most prolific slot receiver in the NFL. We know this. We know this. We know this. Okay, so that's what we're getting it off of. The Dolphins ranked number 8 according to Bleacher Report, and for some reason the Falcons were that low. That and the Patriots. Somebody loves the Patriots. I'm sick and tired of these people, licking the Patriots' balls. But Bill Belichick's got to have his balls licked apparently. So that's gonna be it, guys. I am Skagster83. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Remember, this posts every Wednesday every week. We do fan Q&A. We do all the Dolphins news you need to know about. Report on, obviously, reviewing OTAs so far. This is the second week of OTAs, in case you guys are wondering. And I will see you guys in the next one.